What's up developers, and welcome back to a new video where we will be diving into migrations in Laravel. Quick pause. Do you want to support the channel and want me to continue on creating content? You can support the channel on Patreon right now, where you get benefits such as a private Discord group where you can share your coding issues and other developers who will help you out. If you are interested to join, the link will be in the description down below. Now that we have created our database, it's time to focus on the tables that we're going to add inside of it, since we need to store data inside a table. In Laravel, you won't hear the term tables that much when it comes to databases, since it's being referred to as migrations. Migrations allows you to create database tables without using a tool like the database client to create tables through an interface. By default, migrations are stored inside the database folder in the root of our directory, where you will find a migrations folder. Laravel offers 4 migrations out of the box, which are all related to authentication. If we take a look at the file names right here, you'll find a pretty interesting convention. It starts off with a couple weird numbers. Well, these numbers are actually not that weird because these are timestamps. When you're going to migrate your migrations, the system will grab every single migration here in order by date. It will start off with the most recent one, which will be the users table, so the first one, followed with the create password, create field jobs, create personal access tokens. We're not going to focus on these out-of-the-box migrations, but we're going to create a new one related to the action we're going to perform inside the scores, which is related to our block. There's no need to create a migration manually, since we can create one through Artisan. So let's navigate back to the command line interface, and right here, we're going to perform the PHP artisan make command again. We're going to make a migration, which accepts one required parameter, which will be the name of the migration. If I could give you a tip, make your migration name as descriptive as possible. This gives you a clearer understanding of what the database migration is used for. What we're going to do is to create _posts_table. There are 2 optional parameters that we can add, and I'm just quickly going to show it to you, but we're not going to use it. If we add a --create flag right here, we can pre-fill the migration with code designed to create a table named. The value will be equal to posts. We could also remove the flag and pre-fill the migration for modification to an existing table by saying table is equal to posts. Now let's remove the flag and hit enter. As you can see, Artisan returned a message saying that our new migration has been created, 2022, on the 4th of April. The timestamp is, well, these random numbers, and the name of our migration will be create post tables. Now let's navigate back to Visual Studio Code and let's open our latest migration right here. And let me make it a little bit smaller again. Alright. As you can see, our class does not have a name defined, but is returning a new class directly. The first method that's defined right here is the up method. Whenever you migrate your migrations, every single up method of those migrations will be grabbed. Once again, starting with the earliest date, and these will all be migrated. So the tables will basically be created. It's also using something which you will see quite a lot, which is a schema facade. We're going to create a table with the name of posts right here. And it's also got a function callback right here of the blueprint class. Laravel also said, well, if we can create our tables, why shouldn't we give users the options to delete them through the command line interface as well? And that's the usage of the down method right here. It will roll back all your most recent migrations, and we will perform that in a bit as well. I think that we're ready to create our table, which needs to be defined right inside of the schema right here. By default, every single table that you create has a unique identifier, which will be defined with a table ID. Every table also has the timestamps, which will be the created at and updated at inside your table. We obviously need more columns for our posts. So let's go right below our ID and call the table object. And we're going to chain a new method to it called string. Now the string method accepts a parameter because we need to define the column name inside of it as a string. What will be a string for our post? Obviously the title. So what we did right here is defining a new column called title inside our post table with a data type of a string, so a varchar. Now let's do the same thing for our excerpt and the actual post content. An excerpt is a short summary of the actual body. Now the data type of our excerpt and body needs to be a varchar because we need to have more characters. So what we can do is call the table object and chain the text method to it. The text method also needs a column name, which will be excerpt. Now let's define another one with the data type of text and the name of body. Let's also define another column where the data type will be numbers. So let's say object table, integer, and the name of our integer will be minutes _to read, which will basically show a user how long it takes to read the post. We can also define booleans right here. So let's go on the line below, table object, boolean, with the name of is_published. This should be our table, but it doesn't look right, since I do want to have a unique title, or maybe we need to define a default value for our boolean. Well, this can be done by chaining an extra method. The first extra property will be on our excerpt with the name of nullable. Nullable allows null values to be inserted into a column. So we're basically telling our database, well, the excerpt column can be empty. The second method is the default value. Let's go right after our minutes to read and chain the default method to it, which accepts a value right here. And in our case, it will be a default 1, so an integer of 1 minute. Now, like I've just mentioned, our title should also be unique, right? We don't want to have multiple posts with the same title. So let's go right after our title and chain the unique method to it. Now there's one column missing. So let's go right below our minutes to read and let's define a table, because we obviously need to have an image for our post, but we cannot use a data type called image. What we actually want to do is to store it as a string where we will save the image path, so not the actual image. So let's give it a name of image_path. There is a method that we can add, which is already defined inside the ID column called primary. So ID is by default primary, but we can also chain the primary method to it to make it more clearer, but we don't need it. There are a couple more methods that I haven't talked about. So think about the unsigned method, which marks integer columns as unsigned, or the first method that will place the column first in the column order. But the ones we're using right now are the most common ones. Now that we have defined our migration, it's time to run them inside the CLI. The only thing we need to do is to navigate back to the CLI, perform the php artisan migrate command. What this command does is running all up methods that haven't been migrated recently. So let's hit enter. Alright, as you could see, every migration that we have has been migrated, and also the last one that we have created, which is the create post table. Let's check it out. Let's navigate back to Visual Studio Code, open our database client, our Laravel app, and as you could see, we have a failed jobs, migrations, password resets, personal access token, post, and users table. If we open our post table, you'll see that we got our ID, a varchar title, a text of excerpt, text of body, integer of minutes to read, varchar for our image path, tiny int, which will basically be a boolean because you can't store booleans inside MySQL, of is published, and the timestamps. So I created that and updated that. Now let's navigate back to the CLI one more time and let's hit the arrow up, since we have the option to show all of our migrations that have been migrated inside our system. That can be done by adding a colon right after migrate with a keyword of status. If we hit enter, you see 5 migrations that we have migrated up here. The run column simply shows us whether or not our migrations has been migrated. At the moment, they're all saying yes. Then we got the name and the batch, which is 1. Now next to the status command, we've also got the reset command, which will roll back every database migrations that we've got inside our instance. If we hit enter, you'll see that it has rolled back every single migration. If we navigate back to Visual Studio Code, refresh our database, you'll see that our Laravel app database is empty. But if we navigate back to iTerm, hit the arrow up and remove reset, hit enter, you'll see that we can just migrate it again. Next to the reset command, we also have the refresh command, which will roll back all database migrations and runs all available ones. It's pretty much the same as the reset one, but it runs the PHP artisan migrate command right after. If we hit enter, you'll see that it first rolled back all migrations and then it migrated it again. This was it for this video where I showed you how migrations work in Laravel. In the next video, we will dive into adding dummy data inside our tables. If you do like my content and you want to see more, leave this video a thumbs up, and if you're new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button.